show. Author's Corner, she asked about the books they wrote.
Joining us in Author's Corner is Robert V. Sicina, and his book is it really is a game changer. Learn from Failure, the key to successful decision making. Wow, I know so many undecisive people that need Robert's book. In fact, I just sent 2 of them out. I'm not kidding you. And you can get it for a song, you can get it hardcover, paperback, Kindle, but we're thrilled to have him on Author's Corner with me, Kate Delaney, here on America Tonight, where you have an incredible background of just amazing business acumen, the things that you've done internationally, just incredible. The people that you came across and worked with, etc. And then you were also a professor at American University, an opportunity to pour into a book, Learn from Failure, the key to successful decision making. I think part of that light bulb went off then when you were asked to create something super important. So tell us about the road, first of all, to that cube and what you decided to pour into the book.
Well, the road was indeed a long one, Kate, and I owe the book to my former students who encouraged me to write it. And I also had the opportunity, I taught in the business school, but I had the opportunity to take the course Learn from Failure that I had created and taught for a whole bunch of years to the honors colloquium. And the key caveat was it couldn't just be about business. So I made one of the things I'm good at, Kate. I'm not good at very many things, but I'm good at making stuff up. And I came up with this idea that the notion that failure is something that kind of happens in decision making for the same reasons in 3 key areas: business, international development, and warfare. Don't ask me where that came from, that notion, but I pursued it, and I developed a notion that the underpinnings of decision making were irrationality, in that we don't think the way we think we think. We think of ourselves as rational decision makers, when in fact our decision making is impacted by numerous biases and various things that all too often compromise our rationality and make us irrational. So irrationality, complexity, the environment within which we make decisions is indeed very complex. And last of all, uncertainty, in that embedded within each decision we make is some sort of forecast of the future. And the future is, of course, inherently unknowable. So irrationality, complexity, and uncertainty. And I had this notion, and I came up with, well, how do we go about making decisions? And I concluded we brought three key competencies, capabilities to decision making. And those were best described as leadership, management, and oversight. And I took this whole notion and packaged it in something I called the cube. And I knew that I didn't know anything about. I thought I knew something. I knew I knew something about business. I thought I knew something about. But I knew I knew something about business. I knew I knew nothing about warfare. So I sought out somebody who did. And that ended up being, I found a guy named Thomas X. Hammes, Colonel Thomas X. Hammes, retired U.S. Marine Corps. I found him on the internet in a search, and I reached out to him. He's local. I reached out to him, and lo and behold, he responded and agreed to have lunch with me. We had lunch. I laid out the cube to him. He immediately said, "I think you have the makings of a book." It turns out T.X. Hammes had written a very famous, well-known book himself. And so when he said this, I had to listen. And anyway, the story is longer than that. I'll stop there and say that's a very long-winded answer to your question.
No, it was a great answer. I mean, you reached out, and that's how you were in your career, and certainly people can find that out. I love the way you broke the book down. You know, chapter 4, uncertainty. Chapter 5, fitness for decision making. You talk about Enron, a case study in failed decision making. So you give us the case study there, and then you take it home all the way through, and you talk about, you know, what is failure? What does it mean, you know, with as far as failure is concerned? And I love in chapter 2 when you talk about irrationality, which you mentioned there, you say a really interesting thing. You talk about smart people doing stupid things. And I think there is, for some people, there's a thing about, well, if they're the leader, they must be smart, or if they know that, and then it's not often that way, is it?
It is not often that way.
And that's what I think you nailed in that chapter where you talk about doing it right, and you have a case study there, and you talk about all kinds of things like how not to do an acquisition. So when you went to write this book with all this knowledge you had with your story and failure and massive success, and then everything else you put into it, how did you decide kind of what was going to be on the cutting room floor and what was going to go in? It had to be a cool process for you.
Well, it really ended up being fairly easy once I started writing the story. It kind of told itself, and there wasn't a lot that went on the cutting room floor, Kate. It just came out, wrote it down, and I picked Enron because I had done a bunch of work with students studying Enron and its failure. And in that work, I concluded that, you know, most people think Enron failed because immorality in senior management, and the fact is I developed a different thesis on Enron, and my thesis is that Enron failed due to bad business decision making. And I wrote a book about a chapter for my book about 6 or 7 key decisions that Enron made that failed, and each one cost them around $1 billion each one. Enron didn't make small mistakes; they made big mistakes. And whether it was the Dabhol power plant in India, or any other Enron's foolhardy errors, each one seemed to cost around $1 billion. Those failed decisions were what tanked Enron. Not more. Enron used shady accounting to hide its failed decisions from Wall Street for years and years and years by parking its failures off balance sheet through a technique called special purpose entities, SPEs. And it used that technique so that its failures were invisible to Wall Street. So Wall Street's usual ability to put the brakes on companies that are doing badly and cause them to pay the price for their transgressions, if you will, by having a lower and lower stock price as they made these mistakes. That didn't happen to Enron because they hid their mistakes and Wall Street couldn't see them. And CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Andy Fastow, whom I had the pleasure to personally interview. I spent one-on-one and a half an hour with Andy, and I became convinced in that half hour that indeed my thesis was correct.